Everyone. Welcome here. Uh, After many years of hard work and persistence, I'm so excited that we finally bring our ingredient magtein to the European market. So magtein has been a star for us in the US because of the science and because of the story behind its discovery. So you can see that after 15 years working on this ingredient, I am still passionate to share the story, the discovery, the unique science to tell you why magtein is such an innovative, groundbreaking ingredient that advancing cognitive performance. And it is the ingredient for healthy brain aging and helps you recover and sleep and helps you to build a very, very healthy lifestyle. So I will be covering 5 areas of the topics today. First, we will look at the factors leading to aging and the lifestyle quality. And next, I will share with you the science, the stories behind the discovery, and why magtein is a once in a lifetime opportunity for us for a supplement ingredient. And of course, I will share with you all the clinical evidence backing all the mechanistic discovery. And we also have a new study coming up at 2020, published in 2025, and we will share with you the detail of that study. And lastly, I want to share with you why magtein is the ingredient for healthy brain aging and that will actually change our lifestyle as we get older. Okay, so we know that cognition ability peaks at age 25 and it continues to go down until speeding up at starting from late 60s. And by the age of 80s, most of our cognitive abilities decline quickly. So the good news is that we can do something to change. Early interventions can help slow age-related decline. So one of the studies, the Haynes study, is the data is a involving 2,500 participants aged 60 plus. And it's conducted by National Health and the Nutrition Survey, published in 2011 to 2014. In that large cohort study, it was found that higher magnesium intake was positively associated with global cognitive scores. And optimum magnesium intake, especially that is the case when you take it with adequate vitamin D levels. Okay, so when we think about lifestyle change, what does that mean? So when we are living longer, the important thing for us is how to live a productive life, quality life when we're getting older. So that means two parts. One is that, of course, you have to have a healthy body. You have to have a healthy muscles, healthy heart. But another part of it, very importantly, is you have to have a healthy brain. Your brain needs to act young and help you to maintain the useful life you wanted to have. Okay, so magnesium actually can do both. We know that magnesium is important for muscle, for the heart. Okay, and today I want to share with you a special type of magnesium, magtein, and that is really important for the longevity, healthy of the brain. So the next one I want to share with you is my favorite part, the science behind magtein and how it's developed. Okay, so this is magtein. Magtein is a patented compound of magnesium L-threonate. It has been shown to be effective across the blood-brain barrier increasing the brain magnesium levels so it can improve synaptic density, which is the hallmark of cognitive function of the brain. And it's also improve our brain function. So how magtein was discovered? Magtein was discovered by Professor Liu over 20 years ago. So Professor Liu actually was doing his PhD at UCLA in the late 1980s, early 1990s. Okay, so at that time, neuroscience was very early in the development. Okay, so if you look at all these publications, you can see that magtein was born on Science, published in Nature, Neuron, and demonstrated how strong the scientific support this ingredient is. So what Dr. Liu did over there with Jack Fieldman, who was the chairman of the neuroscience department at UCLA, is that they try to find factors can impact neuron degenerative disease, and that is every professor's dream, right? Especially still true today. So what they did is that they want to establish a good system they can work on. So they engineered in the culture, neuron cultures, a system that they engineered a green fluorescent protein, a reporter protein that only activate when neuron cells are talking to each other. So if you think about it, how can you tell neurons are talking to each other? So now you can. So whenever the neuron talking to each other, you see the fluorescence showing up. That indicates that there's increased neuron plasticity, there's increased neuron signal transduction, and that was a brilliant report system at the time and led to many of the top publications. Okay, so of course, when you ran through the neuron signaling molecules, it will activate that culture system. You're able to read out a clear signal. Okay. And interestingly, one day, Dr. Liu found out that his media did the same thing or even better than a lot of the neuron transmitters. Okay. And surprisingly, I do not know about the younger generation now. During my time and Dr. Liu's time, we still prepare the culture media ourselves from the original chemicals. Okay, so these other media you prepare yourself and then you test it in a culture system. So as a good scientist, he did not just dispose that experiment. He went back and checked his mass, and he found out that he actually made the mistake in magnesium concentration in the media he prepared, and that led to the whole discovery of magtein. So he found out that magnesium actually works as well or even better in his culture system to improve the neuron connectivity. Okay, so what he did later is that after studying all the mechanisms in the culture system, he wants to find out if it's true also in vivo. So he later joined the Dr. Richard Chan's lab at Stanford as a postdoctoral fellow. And over there, he worked with biotech companies to screen all the magnesium compounds available at the time for the ability to go cross the blood-brain barrier to have a benefit for the brain. Okay, so this is led to their first publication in Neuron when he actually was recruited as a professor at MIT. So the first publication of how magtein works in vivo came from MIT with a Nobel Prize co-author. And this was one of the 3 most downloaded articles in Neuron. And I want to summarize some of the important discovery from that publication. Okay, so you can see that this is the figure 1. The most important discovery is when you fed the magtein to and other type of magnesium. In their cases, they tested all the magnesium compounds available at the time, and they listed the most bioavailable inorganic magnesium, magnesium chloride, and the most bioavailable organic magnesium gluconate plus milk, which also increased its bioavailability. So they fed the animals with different type of magnesium compounds for 14 days and took the spinal fluid and tested for the brain magnesium levels. And you can see that only magtein significantly increased the brain magnesium level. Okay, so this figure, the culture system hippocampus section is what I have described earlier for the system. So you engineer the protein that you can see how neurons are contacting each other. So when the signal is strong, which means that there's more plasticity, there's more signaling going on, there's more memory interactions going on in your brain. And this is in the neuron publication, you can see that every factor, every discovery was tested by multiple experiments to make sure you don't just see it by accident. You see it, you verify from different experiments of the same discovery. So you can see in this particular cases, this is a control, and you can see on and off study in this particular setting. So when you feed the magtein on for 2 weeks, you see a significant increase of the plasticity. And when you take it off nicely, it comes down to the background. Okay, so that is also demonstrated parallel examined the behavior of the animals. Okay, so it was demonstrated that when you have a higher magtein levels, your behavior, which is memory measurements, also improved. Okay, so when you're off, those memory parameters comes down to the control level. So that is a very clear demonstrating that magtein is doing the work. Another study came out with Dr. Liu and his group is a later study where they find out that the ligand L-threonate is detrimental for the magnesium to come inside the neuron, which triggered all the functions, all the benefits. Okay, so interestingly, if you look at in this publication, if you look at the comparison of how different types of magnesium, how they enter the neuron cells. Okay, so this is a study done in the neuron cells. You can see that this is a control threonate, only magtein are able to raise the neuron magnesium levels, not any other of the magnesium compounds compared, such as magnesium citrate, gluconate, malate, and magnesium bisglycinate. So this is only unique for magtein. Okay, so there's a whole list of animal studies done by Dr. Liu's group and then by research groups around the world repeating what Dr. Liu has discovered. So as a summary, magtein benefits are demonstrated by animal studies is the only magnesium form that's shown to effectively increase the brain magnesium levels. It was shown to increase in synaptic density in prefrontal cortex, helps to improve working memory, executive memory, and control of emotional responses. And the hallmark of magtein's function is able to increase the synaptic plasticity and density of hippocampus. And it also helps with this kind of the physical evidence. It also helps in terms of behavior levels measurements to improve short-term and long-term memory. Okay, so with all this science published, I want to share with you an intuitive understanding of how magtein works. Okay, so we all know that calcium is very sciencey. So I hope I can explain it in a very plain language. We all know from basic biology that calcium is the most important secondary message, right? And when calcium comes in, it activates all the biological systems. Okay, And what magnesium does is that magnesium is the gatekeeper of calcium channels. Okay. So if you do not have the proper in your brain, let's say, if you do not have the proper magnesium levels, okay, your calcium can easily go through all these calcium channels and activate your system. So what it means that your body constantly are exposed to all these background noises. You're constantly being activated. You are busy. Okay, so if you have the right magnesium levels, these channels are properly blocked. So only the strong signals, the robust signals can activate your cells. So you're only responding to the things, the noises, all the messages you want to respond. But other time you are rested. Okay, so in a sense that magtein is really let your cells at the cellular level, every single cells, you can rest well. You're not responding to all the background noises. As a result, you're more healthier. Okay. And that kind of mechanism is really what we felt when you take this product. When you take this product, you feel that you have a more quality of sleep. And as a result, you have an active life the next day. You're more responsive and you're more alert and you are more rested. Okay. So you're kind of doing meditation on every single cellular level. So that is the coolest thing about magtein is that you understand mechanism and you feel it when you take these products. You feel all the benefits corresponding to how it works. Okay. Okay, so instead of going through all the details of our human clinicals, which are published, okay, I want to bring specifically two of the publications. One of the publication actually was published on adult ADHD from Harvard Medical School. So they found this product actually help ADHD cases, not only help with their symptoms, but also help with their IQ score. Okay, so these are independent of us. This is published by independent research groups. Another study published, it's actually on Alzheimer's patients. Okay, so Stanford University, they did their study, the pilot study on the ADHD patients. They find this product helps with them. But of course, our product are not intended for treatment or any of the disease. So I'm not going to go over that. That area is not what our supplements intended to do. So I want to talk to you, share with you all the human clinicals we have done that on the normal population and how it worked in many areas. For example, the cognition, the sleep quality, the mood and stress, and the brain aging. Okay. So some of the summary from the human clinical, we can see that the cognition score, overall cognition score, was significantly improved in this 2016 human clinical involving double-blind placebo-controlled study of older population. And particularly, you can see that the composite score, which measure the overall cognition in this human clinical study, are significantly improved. Another study which involving a formula of magtein with some other ingredients like vitamin C and D, and find out that magtein improved in 5 different categories as well as the overall cognitive score in a general population in China. In this 2022 publication, is also double-blind placebo-controlled study. We found that magtein helps with stress and anxiety. And another study actually was published last year involving 80 women, 35 to 55 years of age. And when we analyzed the data, it find out that magtein helped with improving deep sleep and reducing the light sleep. Okay, so that is also fitting with how magtein works as from the mechanistic point of view. So of course, when you have a good quality night of sleep, you have improved daily activity, improved positive mood. Okay, so that is from that particular study, concludes that it improved sleep quality, especially deep sleep quality. It also improved mood, reduced grumpiness, improved energy, alertness, and the daily activity and productivity. And that is also connected with how magtein, by improving the brain health, can improve our lifestyle. Okay, so next I want to have Dr. Leprasti, who is one of the best clinical psychologists we have worked with, come here and share with you a study we did with their team. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I just briefly wanted to just review a study that we recently published in the area of magtein and cognitive performance. So I'll go through some of that study. So it was published, we completed the study in 2025, and we had the publication in earlier this year where we published the results. So it was a double-blind placebo-controlled study, and I just want to briefly go through the results, the findings from that study. So what we wanted to do was wanted to kind of add on to what already been done with regards to magtein using a gold standard study in terms of the double-blind placebo-controlled study. It was a 6-week study where we supplemented people with magtein or a placebo, and we recruited people from the ages of 18 to 45. Now, I was a bit concerned when we recruited this population because, as Jennifer said earlier, they're already cognitively pretty good. So they're already kind of reaching their peak. So the danger is that you're not having that age-related cognitive decline in this group. So it was a big risk because potentially it's like, does magtein increase cognitive performance in a healthy group where age-related cognitive decline has not really set into place? So there was that danger there that you're going to get the ceiling effects. So what we did was we thought, okay, what about if what we do is we recruit people with poor sleep because of the relationship between poor sleep and cognitive function. We know that people who are experiencing poor sleep have deficiencies or decrements in their cognitive function. So that's potentially why we looked at that. So we want to look at cognitive function and also sleep-related impact factors. So what we did was we utilized a whole range of different measures. We used the NIH Cognitive Toolbox, which is a validated measure of cognitive performance. And basically what happens is that people complete a whole range of cognitive measures on an iPad, and we look at changes there. So they did that at the beginning of the study and 6 weeks after supplementation. We also got them to complete the Raven's Progressive Matrices, which is a measure, I suppose, of non-verbal IQ. So we wanted to see whether that changed. We utilized a whole range of self-report measures around sleep and around general well-being. And then we also got people to complete an activity known as the AIM trainer. And basically what happens is they shoot a whole range of targets, and the more targets they shoot in a specified amount of time provides a better score, and that provides a measure of reaction time and hand-eye coordination. And finally, we use the Aura Ring to measure sleep, which is quite a validated and commonly used measure of sleep. But we're interested in sleep, but what we're also interested in is looking at resting heart rate during sleep and also their heart rate variability. So if people don't know what heart rate variability is, it's a measure, well, it's each heartbeat, there's a variability between each heartbeat. And the more variance we have between those heartbeats, the better it is. We want to see higher heart rate variability, and it's quite an interesting objective measure of health. We're seeing that people with higher heart rate HRV are experiencing better general well-being, better emotional health, better cognitive health. So we wanted to see whether heart rate variability also increases during sleep. And so basically, if HRV increases, what we're thinking, well, what basically that indicates is that people are more in parasympathetic activities, that they're more in that rest and digest activity as opposed to the sympathetic response, which is your fight or flight response. So we want to see whether that happened. So what we found was that there was the great thing is what we found was a significant improvement in their cognitive performance. And remember, this is a group of 18 to 45-year-olds who are, are generally healthy, who have no major cognitive decrements in their performance, and we still saw that it improves their cognitive performance, which is really impressive. And I was expecting it based upon the previous, but then I was also a bit cautious about that. So definitely positive from that perspective. What we particularly found was there was improvements in their working memory and their episodic memory. So people don't know, working memory is your ability, is a very fast memory. So it's your ability to hold information and then recall it. So basically, if you get your numbers, you get a text with a whole range of numbers, and then you've got to type it in. That's your working memory, holding it for a very limited amount of time. And episodic memory is your memory of everyday events, where you parked your car, what you had for dinner last night, who you spent yesterday with, those areas. And the great thing is that episodic memory and working memory really do have day-to-day impact on your life. So if you have difficulties with your working memory or your episodic memory, is it going to impact? So we saw that. We saw, similar to the previous studies, that there was slow, based upon our calculations, slowed age-related decline in cognitive age by 7.5 years. So that we would expect that that's probably going to happen. And we also saw a reduction in sleep-related impairment compared to the placebo group. So with the questionnaire that we did, there's a score for sleep disturbance, which is kind of like your sleep quality. But then there's also a score for your sleep-related impairment, the negative impact that insomnia or poor sleep has on you. So if you have poor sleep, you feel tired, you feel drowsy, you're unable to concentrate, those types of things. And basically what magtein did is made people feel better during the day. They felt alert. So they didn't feel as groggy. They felt more able to concentrate. And that's what we seem to find from that perspective. And we saw an increase in heart rate variability and a reduction in the resting heart rate. So really fits with what Jennifer was saying about that deep sleep. It seems as though people are more in parasympathetic mode when they're sleeping. It's a more restful sleep, and that's what we found there. So basically, really positive findings. So we conclude that magtein improved cognitive performance, slows the rate of cognitive decline, reduces self-reported sleep disturbances, and seems to increase parasympathetic activity, or your rest and digest kind of response. So really positive from that perspective. Thanks, Jennifer.